My name is Sheetal. Welcome to our channel Sitaretalks, and today we are meeting Ms. Azhar, who is the former Economic Affairs Officer at the United Nations, and right now she is leading the transport and the logistics section for the entire Asia and the Pacific nation. So welcome Azhar, and nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Hello.
So Azhar, we know that you have been celebrating your 20 years anniversary with the United Nations recently. So how does it feel?
It feels amazing, and I must say that even after 20 years with the UN, I'm constantly surprised and excited about this job. I joined in 2003 as a young professional, and since then I have worked in many regions of the world: Europe, Latin America, Asia, and the Pacific now, mostly on the issues of economic development pertaining to transport. And some issues of trade, and it has always been very enriching experience.
Yeah.
And you discover how UN engages with the countries, with different communities, trying to make a difference.
Yeah.
And over the 20 years, you can really see the difference. So, in that sense, it was a very enriching experience. And as I said at the beginning, I keep discovering new things. So it feels like I'm still in the middle of my experience with the UN.
Yeah, so quite a diverse experience for the last 2 decades for you, right?
Yes, very diverse.
Yeah. So we would like to know why you chose this career in international relations and affairs, a quite unique field per se.
Yeah. So I chose my university studies at the very particular time. So I'm originally from Kazakhstan, and at that time it had just the Soviet Union had just ended, and we were rediscovering international relations, what it is to be an independent state, what it is to be part of the world, and that's why studying international affairs, international law, which is something I studied, was new, exciting, and it was a way to expand your horizon and find your place in the new world.
Yeah, quite unique thinking while choosing your career. So Azhar, thanks for briefly sharing your experience with us and your approach while choosing your career in international relations and affairs officer. Now we would like to know, how does your experience as a former economic affairs officer shape your approach as the current head of the transport and logistics sections in United Nations while you are trying to address the Gen Z generation concerns in this sector?
Just for the information of maybe people who are not familiar with the UN system, you start as the economic affairs officer if you work in the economic affairs thing or domain, and I started as associate economic affairs officer, and then you move up, and now, as you said, I'm a head of section on transport and logistics.
Yeah.
And what that means is that I had started at the bottom and moved up, and I have discovered all the different ways and different levels of responsibilities in the UN, and I think in that sense, of course, I'm from a different generation. I do recall, and I've lived through what it is to be a young professional, to come in from a completely different environment, joining the UN. I was 25 when I joined the UN, and I remember how many things didn't make sense or were unfamiliar, and you just keep discovering in different ways in which UN works and what UN actually means in practice. So that sense of understanding that what we think makes sense when we work and we do our work at the UN might not necessarily make sense or be accessible to the new generations. For you have fresh eyes, fresh perspectives, and you have a critical mindset, which over the years one tends to, you start to accept things as they are and maybe not question them as much. And this questioning, this curiosity, the eagerness to change, I think this is something that I'm very determined at keeping in my current work, where I have more of a managerial role and working with a diverse team, including quite a few young colleagues who, as I said, bringing this new perspective and fresh eyes to our work.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I think we could see a lot of opportunities for the young professional in the United Nations going forward.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Newspaper headlines often the challenges the global supply chain is facing at the moment. So we would like to know, how is your team, while addressing and seeing all the complexities around the world, ensuring the sustainable and the good transport practice across the globe?
Well, it's true that the headlines and news letters have frequently recently, in particular, especially during COVID, spoke about supply chain disruptions and various issues. And it's just the tip of the iceberg. Issues of logistics performance, transport costs, and sustainable transport, as you mentioned, it's one of the major and constant challenges to the development of our countries. And of course, the challenges are different according to the region, to the country itself. Many factors come at play, but it's something that requires the constant attention. And what I can share is that not only it's a constant challenge, it's also becoming more and more pressing issue, because the sources of disruption to transport, connectivity, to logistics performance can be of different nature. We've just lived through the pandemic, which had impacted transport. There are geopolitical development that always complicate international transport operations. There are now increasingly disruption of climatic nature, climate change and so forth. And the way my team currently in Asia and the Pacific working on helping countries address that is, first is awareness of this, that disruption is the new normal. You can't just rely that the solutions you've put together a few years back, or some investments you've planned a few years back, remain valid. The world may have changed. There are new opportunities, there are new difficulties. So I guess the main element is to keep your fingers on the pulse of the current situation, try to anticipate challenges and be ready for anything.
Yeah, that's a good approach. Yeah, because I think every challenge comes with opportunity, and we have to tap the opportunity in the realm of challenge that we are seeing at the moment, right? So Azhar, since we were talking about the technology, we know that the digital technology is transforming everything across the world. So how do you see that this digital technology will shape the future of the transportation and the logistics section in future?
Well, certainly transport is the area where you can see the impact of digital transformation already now. The electronic ticketing, contactless solution for transport, being able to order transport services online, and just other things in the background that people do not see. The trains run on schedule because in many cases we use technology for the planning of and management of traffic. Same with the car, automated cars. I mean, the examples are abundant. And the way the technology is transforming transport, again, it's something that can take various routes and various paths. And if we know what the kind of future we want, if we want the future, more sustainable transport, fewer emissions, greater efficiency, technology can really help. But technology is a tool that will give you the result if you point to the result you want, right? So unfortunately, while we all could see the benefit already of using new technologies in transport, we also need to be aware of the fact that requires a careful selection of the technology, and being able to at least be open to the possibility of some negative fallouts. Some technologies might not be accessible, may be too costly, and at the end of the day, if you talk about sustainable development, sustainable means not just environmental or financial, it also means social, sustainable. So I would say certainly in transport, digital transformation is the game changer, and it's a constant change, and making sure that this change goes in the right direction is something that countries have to work on, and that's where UN does a lot. We organize exchange of best practices, something that worked, something that didn't work, some technological solutions that perhaps had unforeseen costs, unforeseen circumstances, so consequences. So we try to encourage countries to share this, because there's a lot of uncertainty, right? Sometimes things work, sometimes they work in a very different way. So this unpredictability of impact of technology is something that we can only manage if we share experience and work together.
Yeah. That's an interesting insight by United Nations again for all of us. We know that everybody is talking about the sustainable transportation across the world, as we just now have discussed. We would like to know that, considering the realm of Gen Z's perspective, how United Nations is promoting the awareness or the engagement of the consumption of this so-called exhausted resources across the globe, specifically in this transport and logistics section.
Well, it's a continuation of long-standing concerns in transport. Transport is a consumer of a lot of resources, especially for long time fossil fuels and so forth. UN does address this through various forms. One is, again, as I said, awareness raising of what is happening, and also that there are solutions available if you're open to it and willing to invest in the new solutions, if you're willing to be innovative. There are also the realm of solution using technology that can make your transport sector much more efficient in using resources. And when you started your question, you referred to, again, the Generation Z, and there's an approach to transport policies that UN is supporting, which is stakeholder consultation that involve all the beneficiaries of transport services, providers of transport services, but also everyone that in one way or another is impacted by transport, and an inclusive and regular dialogue on transport policy, how they see this, what are the main concerns. We organize intergovernmental meetings, which are more for policymakers and for ministries, let's say. But alongside of that, we have expert group meetings, we have forums, we have, for instance, Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, and other meetings which are open to everyone, especially youth organizations. We, in fact, directly engage with the youth associations and organizations to make sure that the voice of the new generation is heard, and they are a great ally in our preoccupation with the future of the world, the use of resources and so forth. So we're both, let's say, we work on giving them the voice and the platform to share their concerns, and we greatly benefit from that when they do that.
Yeah. That's a great initiative for all young people, because I think, as you already mentioned, they are the most critical people who would like to come up with the innovative ideas and would like to be heard by somebody and would like to see that the action is being taken. So yeah, that's a great initiative, I guess. Since we spoke a lot about the digital transformation and the sustainable transportation practices, would like to share one of my experience in my country, where we are promoting heavily for utilization of electric vehicle in a country like India. So we feel which is difficult at first time, but of course we are seeing a lot of positive responses across the country in India. So we would like to know your opinion or any insight that you see this kind of initiatives are being taken across the globe in the transport and the logistics sector.
No, yes, transition to electric mobility is certainly a trend we see across the world. Of course, in economies like India, that transition would have a tremendous impact on various aspects, including the emissions, but also noise pollution, for instance, and so forth. What I can share is that this is something that we've realized that requires a strong regional cooperation. Again, you make some choices in terms of technologies used, in terms of how you provide your population with access to electronic vehicles. How do you transform your infrastructure, right, to make sure that charging station and many other elements, recycling facilities. So this is something where UN works very actively. For instance, there is for the last couple of years Asia Pacific initiative on electric mobility that brings together countries in Asia Pacific so they can share their plans, the results, some difficulties they've experienced, because as I said, we are all going through it. It's largely positive. It brings a lot of benefits, but it comes at a cost. It has to be the transition has to be managed, and we also need to make sure that we measure the benefits and see exactly unforeseen and foreseen benefits and unforeseen and foreseen costs of that transition. But so again, in an area where UN has been very active, and I think I was talking earlier about seeing concrete impact on the ground. I think support to transition to electric mobility is one of the more concrete aspects of our work in transport.
Yeah, that's a great initiative, and we would definitely like to see how the future holds for us in terms of electric vehicles. So I think we have covered all the aspects of the transport and logistics sections. We would like to hear now your advice for younger generation while addressing their concerns, and we have been continuously hearing that you have been organizing a lot of workshops. There are a lot of openings. The United Nations would like to hear the opinion of Gen Z generation as well. So for example, people who would like to perceive their career in this trade and logistics sections, or your former career as an economic affair officer, what advice would you like to give to this younger generation, what they should definitely look towards United Nations or in general in this particular field?
Well, let me focus on maybe 3 key points or pieces of advice that I can share. First is bear in mind that UN works in very diverse ways. As I mentioned, we organize meetings, we implement projects, we work directly with governments on some policy reforms. Very often people, and I guess young people as well, assume that UN works in a very limited way. We're either decision makers, or they only think about the UN headquarters in New York. Please bear in mind that the chances are there's a UN office in your country, either national or regional. There are probably many projects that UN is implementing in your region, and if you find a way to involve yourself in whatever capacity, participant, intern, or expert, right? You that's the way for you to start coming in and engaging more with the UN. So there are many doors through which you can come to the UN, and keep your eyes open. So that's the first point. The second point is build up an expertise. Of course, your approach and perspective as a different generation is already valuable in itself, but it's there's also many people like you, so you do need to bring some concrete contribution, an area of expertise, some experience that is unique to you. So work on this to develop that, because you need to bring something to the UN so you can effectively contribute. And I guess the third point is that you can influence what UN is doing, right? So you can do it either trying to engage directly with the UN, or you can work very actively within your own country, with the NGOs, with the association, with the ministries, because at the end of the day, UN is in many ways governed by, well, actually globally, in general, governed by the governments, right? So if you, for instance, work for the Ministry of Transport of India, your views on how India should manage transition to electric vehicles will inform the work of the UN in that area. So working for your government often is a very effective way to engage with the UN, and maybe this is something that people do not have in mind. So make sure that you open to various ways in which UN can be present in your life. Build the expertise in a particular field. And third, try to engage in your own country, in your own field, be more active, more open to the opportunities, because chances are that would also be a good way for you to engage with the UN.
I think that's a very valuable piece of advice that probably I was also not really knowing how I can contribute to the United Nations directly or indirectly, and of course to the people who are looking forward to build their career in this section. So thanks a lot for sharing this valuable insight, Azhar, and we wish you a very happy day ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, and happy to help. And it is a great initiative that you're doing as well, because I do realize that it's not easy to get access to and understand very well how UN works.
Yeah.
So all the opportunities you can find of getting access to the information, go for it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot again. Have a nice day ahead.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah. Thank you.